Well, qualifying for Formula One's 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix is in the books, and once again here in Baku, Charles Leclerc is on pole position. JBL, how did he do that? It's 4 in a row, technically 5 because he was on top in sprint qualifying here last year. Just how good was he here in Baku?
It seemed pretty seamless, didn't it? And he even said in the press conference that he got into FP1, even though he crashed, actually he felt like he had a pretty good baseline. And so apart from repairing the car for FP2, they didn't really need to tinker much with setup. So he already felt in a pretty good window. The team was just kind of adapting to the natural track evolution that you have around here. It's quite a lot of it because it was very low grip at the start of the weekend. It's still not high grip now, but it's in a much better window. So he was just able to deal with that, get on top of it, and it was just such a clean lap overall. Simply just countering track evo, and asked why he's so good around here. He said there's no real magic solution to this. It just seems to fit in with his driving style. So Carlos Sainz was asked, what is Charles doing that you're not effectively? And it's all about confidence under braking, really. You kind of look at their data, and Charles is just going into the corners a little bit later than Carlos is, and Carlos can carry, I think, a little bit more peak speed through that corner, but then Charles gets better traction out of it. So it's all about confidence around here. He knows how to get into the rhythm here, and that's pretty much the ingredients there for him to get his pole position.
Absolutely. Well, he beat McLaren's Oscar Piastri. Obviously a great result for Oscar. Not so good for his teammate. I mean, really not so good for his teammate Lando Norris, out in 17th. We're going to discuss that later on. Very controversial. It was a very interesting and, yeah, questionable incident around what went on there. But the other big story, Max Verstappen only 6th for Red Bull.
So yeah, obviously a weird incident for Norris there, and you've spoken to the FIA about this because there was a little bit of, let's say, a lack of clarity over what happened there. So let's give us a little bit of a rundown of what happened to Lando.
Yeah, very much lack of clarity, a key part of why this is such a big talking point. So effectively, Norris is coming up to complete his final run in Q1. I got a little bit distracted. I do hope this does come over here. There's a cat wandering around at our feet as it comes over. No, probably far too interested in seeing a Formula One driver going to that hotel in the background. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, with Norris, he's coming to complete his final lap in Q1. He's coming down into the critical left-hander at the bottom of the hill that feeds onto the back straight. Critical to get a good exit there, because otherwise you're bleeding time all the way on the run to the line. He didn't do that. He was all over the curb, so it was already a little bit awkward, but that should not have been too bad for him. But basically what happened, he comes around the corner, it's that little kink of turn 17, and basically a yellow flag goes on very quickly just as he's arriving. It's green immediately after that. Esteban Ocon in the Alpine was right up on the inside, approaching turn 18 ahead, and effectively what happened then, Norris had to back off. Obviously you always do that with a yellow flag, or you're always supposed to do that with a yellow flag. Asked McLaren if there was time to do another lap. There wasn't, so he had to come into pits out in 17th. Now, while this all got a bit controversial, various reasons. One, suggestions that it wasn't even a yellow flag that Norris was reacting to. It potentially was a white flag. That is completely incorrect, as far as my understanding goes. The critical clue there was the green flag marker board that I mentioned earlier. Effectively, don't get that with white flags, only get that with yellow flags. So basically, yeah, no suggestion that Norris did anything incorrectly there. Any suggestion that he maybe braked a bit early or a bit too much or whatever, I don't know. That's wrong, because at that part of the track, or particularly the turns 18 left and right, that's super fast, drivers are just, it's really emphasised to them, was again last night in the drivers briefing, I understand, make sure you lift off there or brake or whatever. If you see a yellow flag, have to react. Obviously it's pretty much that part of the track anyway, so Norris did that. And then again, Andrea Stella, McLaren team boss, saying, suggesting, was this yellow flag really necessary? I don't think there's any suggestion that they're sort of questioning, what would be the right or wrong thing to do in that situation. It's just because Ocon was so far over to the left, really wasn't necessary. Now, my understanding from the FIA is that basically, because Ocon's car was so damaged, it was described to me as on 3 wheels, it was crabbing quite significantly. He hit the wall at turn 4, it was creeping back to the pits. It's been covered by white flag before, as I say, but effectively a marshal in that, given that area, given what was going on, given how fast Norris was closing, activated the yellow flag system, and that's what triggered the whole incident. So yeah, McLaren, they're sort of, they want answers, they want to know what happened, but I don't think there's any like absolute fury or blame or anything like that. It's just, again, you want to get a full clarification on all of that. So yeah, ultimately, don't know what you think, JBL, just really unlucky for Norris.
Yeah, I think certainly it's just all about timing, isn't it, around here? The old phrase, you've got to be alert on a street circuit. You see that yellow flag, you react, because you don't know what's ultimately going to happen. You don't want to get penalised. So I think that's the crux of it there. But his misfortune was perhaps, let's say, Red Bull's slight fortune in this regard, because that gives it, it's found an improved level of performance here, and Norris qualifying only P17. That means that Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen have a chance to eke away a little bit at McLaren's rapidly closing speed in the championship.
I think I flip that on its head, just because as unfortunate as this incident is, the fact that Verstappen's only 6th, Perez just in front of him, yeah, Red Bull do seem better, they do seem happier. They're not 1 and 2. Like, there is an opportunity, there is another opportunity for Norris potentially to take points back. He could yet do it. Let's not be all doom and gloom. Let's get into Red Bull though. 5th and 6th. Why was Perez ahead of Max Verstappen? He's very good here. Does that explain it all?
I think partly he is a bit of a specialist here, but there was factors at play in taking away from Max's performance during qualifying. So I think during the free practice sessions, he was getting into a position where he was very, very comfortable with the car, particularly in FP3. He was looking good. They made a few more changes to the car, trying to maybe get a little bit more, of that good stuff with regards to balance, because he was feeling a little bit better. The problem was they went a little bit too far with it, and that was the problem. It then took performance away, so they'd got to the window and then perhaps gone a little bit too far, maybe got a little bit too greedy. So that was the issue for Max. Whereas for Sergio, there has been a new floor upgrade this weekend. Paul Monaghan, the chief engineer, did say it was only a very subtle change, but actually it seems to have given him much more confidence around here. And again, confidence in those 90-degree corners, confidence around the Old Town. He just seems to have that. The car's doing largely what he wants it to do. The only problem is that final sector. It just doesn't really have that traction out of T16. It doesn't really have the straight line speed either. So that's where the performance is lacking at the moment. But generally, they seem a lot happier. And yeah, Perez said that it was a really, really big step forward. Again, perhaps he could have done a little bit better with regards to Sector 2. But yeah, I think Red Bull has reason to be a little bit happier than it has been so far this weekend.
Excellent. There, the engine's being turned on all around us, as you can see with it not going on over there. But if anybody is wondering what happened to that cat, we went off over there to the left, and then there was a big scrum around Pierre Gasly. So clearly an Alpine fan, that cat. But anyway, I think the other sort of big story of qualifying was what on earth happened to Alex Albon. So JBL, why don't you describe the incident before I get into the sort of detail behind it?
So yeah, this was a very bizarre incident for Alex Albon. The first runs at Williams, there might have been a slight contre-trompe in the pit lane with Sergio Perez. They came out in front of him. I think Perez backed off and perhaps saw them coming. They went out, and then he decided to complain because it's all gamesmanship on the radio. But during these second and final runs, Albon left the pit and he still had the airbox fan attached. Now you wonder how they could miss that, because it's a bright yellow piece of equipment. But Alex, would you like to get into that one for us?
Effectively, it was just a mad rush to get out there. It was critical, Alex Albon saying, to get the tow from the other cars in Q3, and unfortunately, when he was just missing it. And he came on the radio, he was very philosophical about it. It's like, guys, this just happens. He didn't think it was that they lost much. Franco Colapinto, his teammate, excellent, did qualify ahead in 9th, and Albon reckoned that's probably the best he could have done in any case. But yeah, it was just all a bit unfortunate from what happened from there, because his engineer tells him, although it's quite interesting, actually said, pull over, we've got a cooling issue, and that is factually accurate, but I think they quite hadn't realised at that point just how bizarre the cooling issue was. And Albon reached up, pulled it out. You saw Fernando Alonso trying to do the similar thing with a visor tear off yesterday. I thought that was quite cute, actually, when Alonso was trying to reach over the top of his head, but I digress again. With Albon, yeah, he pulled the fan off and was just debating whether do I give it to a marshal, or do I do? The marshal, you can see him in the background putting on the sort of the rubber gloves, that fancy rubber gloves. They're not exactly marigolds. Other brand things are available. To touch the car, because obviously marshals want to be very very safe when it comes to hybrid car systems. But effectively, Williams, they came on the radio and just said, Alex, just truck it. We don't want the marshals to touch the car, because of course there's a rule that means if the marshals do that, you get yourself all sorts of trouble about whether you then carry on in the session. Also worth remembering here, Alex Albon, when he was competing in Formula 2 in 2018, he would have seen his friend George Russell earn the ART Grand Prix team a €3,000 fine for throwing a water bottle out of his cockpit during the Barcelona, I think it was a feature race at that time. It come loose in Russell's F2 cockpit, and he chucks it out on the virtual safety car. Big furore at the time, but yeah, a fine there. So yeah, as we're recording, Albon is under investigation. We don't have the outcome of that yet, but I wouldn't expect there to be any sporting penalty, really. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong. And if there is a penalty to come, Albon said to me in the pen that that's something that we're going to have to discuss with the FIA, because what is the exact ruling there. So yeah, very unusual, very unfortunate. He just didn't have time to start a lap after that. I think he come to a complete stop. Well, he obviously come to a complete stop. He turned the engine off, turned it back on, restarted it, got going again. Not enough time to do a flying lap. So there you have it. There's a flying rundown of qualifying. We've had Leclerc getting another pole position. We've had Max Verstappen maybe not being too happy to be starting down the order. Lando Norris very unhappy, I'm sure, to be very far down the order. And we had a cat wandering around our feet that was probably never saw on the camera. So that's Baku. It's pretty wild, and we look forward to the Grand Prix tomorrow.